The St. Louis Cardinals are on their final homestand of the 2025 season and final homestand of the John Mozeliak era. A lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts about how he should be kind of, treated on the way out or celebrated. But one particular former Cardinal, and Lance Lynn, was pretty vocal today about his frustration with people potentially giving Mo, some crap about how this season and his career as the Cardinals president of baseball operations and GM on the way out. So we're going to discuss, how do we think fans and people should respond to Moselak this weekend and on the way out? And is the 2025 season Mo's fault? How much blame does he deserve for these things? We're going to talk about all this and more on this episode of D on the Card. What a fun graphic. Sandy was like, whoa, what's that?
There's some new typing sounds, man. That was like a little different.
It's like the cards, right? It's like
I like it.
So yeah. all credits Andrew as always on any of the cool back end stuff. So glad to be back with you guys. I missed you guys. It was fun tuning in from afar, but definitely missed being a part of the conversation. And so not a lot going on in Cardinal land right now. It's honestly, I don't really want to talk about any of it. You just keep looking every day. It's like, wow, his ERA is worse than it was a month ago. Wow, his OPS dropped by 100 points this past month. Like,
have you seen? Brutal. I don't know if you saw the stat I sent you guys. Credit to let me pull it up real quick, but credit to Cardinal 70, I want to say is who it was. But it said, like, since the break, and this was as of a few days ago, since the break, the Pirates have the second worst offense in all of baseball. They've got an OPS of 670 over that half. The worst offense is yours truly, the St. Louis Cardinals, 19 points below, rocking a 651 headed into play the other day, and then they scored 2 runs, so I'm assuming it got worse. But, I mean, that's unbelievable how bad they've been. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. So not good times in Cardinals land right now, but you know what? We press forward. We think about the future and we see what happens there. But I don't know. You guys all caught the reel from Lance Lynn from earlier and his thoughts on, I guess, just fans' reaction to Moselak. So I guess basically, I won't necessarily use the exact language Lance Lynn used there, but he was pretty frustrated about fans potentially blaming Mo for the problems this year. And he seemed to kind of have the take that if people are booing Mo at an end of season press conference or like a celebration for his time in St. Louis, that they'd be taking it out on him because of his time, like this year specifically, the last 3 years, and that's not fair because he's had so much winning in St. Louis, and then that this year specifically is frustrating because like he was told he can't spend money and all these different things. So that was kind of the point he presented. Andrew, I'm curious, how does that sit with you, Lance Lynn's take?
I don't. It doesn't matter, right? Like, the fans are going to do what I know what the fans are going to do, because I was there on opening day when they played a tribute video for him, and I was so confused what they were doing. I thought it was like this old Cardinals history video that they do every year. I haven't been to that many opening days, so I don't know what the video is like every year. But then I realized that every single highlight they were playing was from the last like 10 to 15 years, like 2006, 2011, like some of the 2013 stuff, like highlights from that era. And I was like, oh, this is from Mo. And then immediately after the video was over, they brought him on the field. They're like, this is Mo's last year. Everyone thank Mo for all the great memories. And everyone just rained boos on him, which I thought was pretty funny. I didn't really participate in that. I think Mo has done a fine job throughout his career with the Cardinals. But you know, it's time to go. We'll have a whole special video coming out about Mo.
It's true.
At some point when I can edit. And, you know, I guess Josh hasn't, I don't know if you've even recorded that, but if you have, there's probably a lot of coughing in there.
Catching strays right now. What the heck? This isn't about me.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I think it's totally fair to pin a lot of the blame for the failures of this season on Mo. Not all of it, obviously. I don't think it's Mo's fault that Jordan Walker doesn't listen to coaching. I don't think it's Mo's fault that Andre Palante like suddenly stopped getting as lucky and, you know, spirals out of control whenever things don't really go his way. I don't think it's Mo's fault that, you know, that he didn't have any money to spend and improve the team. But it is Mo's fault that he kept Eric Fetty around, that he didn't reallocate those resources into something that could have actually helped this team instead of, lose the team probably 10 or so games throughout the first half of the season. I think it's Mo's fault that the player development has been so bad. And, it may not be directly responsible for Jordan Walker being terrible. But I do think it is responsible for not having a single starting pitcher that's homegrown be any good other than Michael McGreevy, who's been fine, right? I do think he's responsible for that. And I do think he's responsible for a lot of other issues, not being able to develop a star in the last 10 or so years. And I do think it's fair for fans to voice that frustration. I don't know what else they're supposed to do, Lance. I don't know if you want them to start throwing trash on the field. I don't think that's going to be any better.
They already have voiced their frustration.
Yeah. I'm sure they might. I'm sure some fan will do that and get kicked out. But I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty chill way to voice your frustration at the organization. And I wouldn't be mad at all if fans did that, because they're probably going to bring Mo out at some point during the homestand. That'll be fun.
Yeah. What do you think, Sandy?
It's going to be quite a scene when they do bring Mo out there. Look, I think a couple things are true here. The first thing is that Mo largely had a very successful career as the Cardinals GM. He did a lot of winning, especially during the first half of his tenure. He did some winning in the second half, and he's done some losing right at the end. It's really unfortunate timing, right? Because if Mozeliak had been worse from 2016 to 2018, and then the winner that he built for 21-22 had sustained itself through the end of his career, we'd think differently, right? Or even if 23 had just not been nearly as bad as it was, and the Cardinals had been mid for 3 years instead of bad and then less bad, I think sequencing would matter a lot. But the other thing too is, people are upset about Mo for these last few years, but I also think Cardinals fans are smart and they understand that these few years happened because of decisions that were made 5 or 6 years ago, right? And that's why we're where we are now. And so I think there are definitely Cardinals fans out there that are benefiting from hindsight, and they're saying, I knew Mo was terrible 10 years ago, right? Yeah. I don't think that's fair. But I think there are fans that maybe saw behind the curtain a little earlier than 2023 and were able to say, hey, this player development is not what it should be. Hey, the best pitcher we brought up in a while is Dakota Hudson. Hey, we don't need to be extending Miles Mikolas. We need to have young arms. And that's a completely fair criticism too. And I understand where those fans are going to come from, and they're going to be really upset, as they should be. Also, when we talk about specifically this year, yeah, Mo does deserve a lot of blame. I think Andrew made a good point there. There are things he could have done better. Yes, he works within the constraints of the St. Louis market, and that's a hard job sometimes when you can't go out there and you can't sign Kyle Tucker. You can't go out there and you can't sign Juan Soto. But at the same time, you don't have to keep Eric Fetty around. We all said it. And I know other people will claim they said it, but we actually did. We are on camera having said it. Okay? Yeah. You don't have to re-sign Miles Mikolas, right? There are a lot of things they could have done differently, even coming into this year, to make it a better season. It should have been a better season, especially when, and I think the most frustrating part of all of it is, as bad as the Cardinals have been in so many different ways, right? The offense since the break, historically bad in every way. The starting pitching is horrendous. You don't have a single starter now with an ERA under 4.4. Everyone sucks. As bad as that's all been, they're 4 games out of the playoffs. And if they were just competent in one of those ways, you're probably looking at a playoff team. And that's the thing. It's the roster's fault. It's the roster construction and individual players that we can blame later. We can assess blame and whatnot. But it's not that they didn't get the most they could out of this terrible roster for the most part. So,
yeah, but then it's who constructed that
exactly
and roster. That's yeah. That's so here's a couple of tidbits too, because that's where if I think Lance seems to be missing the point a little bit with it, where he kind of was if they're gonna blame him for this last year, and it's people are not frustrated because 2025. They're frustrated because of everything that led to it and everything the context around it. It's not just the 3 years leading up to it. It's the whole process, right? So Mo's first 8 years in St. Louis, so 2008 to 2015, they were 728 and 568. It was a 56 win percentage. So they made the playoffs 6 out of 8 years. They won a World Series. They won 2 pennants. They've made to the NLCS 4 times. In the 10 seasons since then, he's made the playoffs just 4 times. So it went from 6 out of every 8 years to 4 out of every 10 years. A 54% win percentage, but it's also kind of crazy that, I mean, that's actually, when you talk about that big of a sample size, that's a drop off. It's not huge, but it is. They've been mediocre over that time. They made to the NLCS just 1 time in that stretch. They've won 4 total playoff games in 10 years, and they've won 1 playoff series in 10 years. Like, that's the bigger picture that people are frustrated by. It's not that they haven't been good since 2022. It's that they haven't really been a real contender since 2015. That's 10 years. That's a decade since you could really say, again, true, the 2022 team could have been interesting, right? And maybe, I don't think 2021 would have done anything, but like 2019, yes, they made the NLCS, but like even making the NLCS kind of felt a little like, oh, we're kind of surprised the Cardinals are here.
They played a great series against the Braves, who were definitely the better team on paper. And honestly, that Nationals team, I did not want to play the Nationals because they had that team of destiny feel.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I did not see them beating I mean, well, in the moment I wanted them to, but it's like, it makes sense the Nationals won, and I don't really think they would beat the Astros. So it's like, again, I'm not trying to take away from the NLCS, but it's like the 1 year they even made it far was kind of like, whatever. So, but 1 time in 10 years, they made it to the NLCS, and they didn't even put up a fight in the NLCS. They've won 4 total playoff games in 10 years, and they've won 1 playoff series in 10 years. That's the problem people are talking about. It dates back to 2016, not 2023. And so I do think it's a little bit different if the fall off, like if they were a true contender all the way through 2022, then 2023 happens. Yes, people are still mad, but I think that's what maybe, then I think it'd be fair to say, hey, pump the brakes a little bit here. It's like for 15 of the 18 years, it was incredible. And then it fell off a little bit. It's like, no, more so like 8 of the 15 years were incredible, or 8 to 18 years were incredible. And a decade of it's been not bad. But like if these last 10 years were his first 10 years, Mo doesn't make it 10 years.
That's very
I don't think so in this market. And so I think that's what people are frustrated by. I think Lance kind of missed the boat on this one, kind of was fixated on something that I'm kind of surprised, honestly, because he's in that clubhouse, right? Like, or not. This is his lived experience. I don't know, maybe it's just sometimes when you're part of an organization and you have ties to them, and clearly he's been a part of a lot of places, but I think he feels an affinity toward the Cardinals. You don't want to be too critical of things at times, but I am a little bit surprised because Lance doesn't seem to be a guy to mince words very often. And it just kind of surprises me that he felt like they did enough in those years. He also took a kind of, which is fair, he took a little jab at the offense in 2024 because he said, we just didn't score runs, which was true.
Very true.
But I don't want to necessarily call the pitching staff all that great. It did enough. Yeah. So they quote unquote did their job. But I wouldn't necessarily say you guys are totally off the hook either. But yeah, I think and you guys are getting at this already, but when you look at numbers like that, it's like, now it makes so much more sense why people are frustrated.
And I think there's one more thing just to throw in there, and this is an optics thing for fans, but like the Cardinals have not been fun. Would you agree with that? Like they haven't even been a fun middling team, because you got teams that are like, I don't know, the A's have been this at times.
The Angels.
The Blue Jays have certainly, well, the Angels have had stars, but the Blue Jays at times were like this, where you're like, man, our pitching might not be great, but the offense is going to go out there and they're going to score, and you're going to lose a lot of games, like, 8-6 at least. Yeah. Whereas it seems like the Cardinals just generally have lost like 3-1 for the last 10 years too, right? The offense was abysmal in 2017, 2018, even in 2019, the offense really sucked. They were pretty bad for most of 21, figured it out in 22 with, miracle run Albert Pujols, but then right back to being really bad in 24, 25. Like they've been the most boring type of middling team too, which doesn't help, right? You got no marketable stars right now. You got a brand of baseball that just isn't fun.
You don't like watching Andre Palante go out there every 5 days?
Man, look, I liked Andre last year. He was really fun to watch. He's been really bad this year, and it speaks to the situation Mo's put them in, where there's literally nobody else to bring up behind him. Now, I am kind of surprised you haven't seen like Quinn Matthews at any point. I don't know. Maybe they're waiting, whatever. But there's almost nobody else. Bryson Motts maybe could have been an intriguing guy to call up at some point, but that's where they are. They're at this point where the depth is coming into the year. The depth was limited to Michael McGreevy and hopefully a healthy Quinn Matthews, which he didn't get for most of the season. Yeah. Like That's Mo.
Yep. And again,
There's
too, oh, go ahead.
There's sects of Cardinals fans. There's people like us who are so plugged in, and we like think about this team probably way more than we should.
Yeah.
And then there's Cardinals fans that are very casual, and those are the people, like, they're not watching this, but they're the people that go to the games and their favorite player is Nolan Arenado because they watched a cool highlight reel of him like 3 years ago, right? Like,
well, I mean,
those even those people are the ones who are like, well, the Cardinals aren't really doing well, and who do we blame for that? We blame Mo, and they don't really know why they're doing it, but they still don't like Mo. And I think
I will give you that. There are definitely a lot of fans that blame Mozeliak without the right backing.
Yeah, they blame him for things that he's not.
Yeah.
They're like, Mo has ruined Jordan Walker.
Yeah, blind criticism doesn't help. But also, like, every city has those fans. It's just when your team is really good, those fans are all more plugged in. Like, the Phillies have been good for a long time, and they also have like 5 marketable stars. So all the Phillies fans that show up to the games, like, they know what's going on.
Snipes has a good suggestion. Thanks for the $5 donation. Card should sign a couple of 35-year-old pitch to contact pitchers to turn the franchise around.
Is that Montana's going to be available?
Is Mozeliak the new president of baseball operations?
Could be.
Oh man!
Honestly, if they sign Justin Verlander next year, I actually wouldn't be that.
There's no way Verlander.
His numbers look really good in this.
I know Kershaw just said he's retiring, but let's bring him out of retirement to play in St. Louis.
That would be hilarious if they sign like Scherzer, Verlander, and Kershaw to like $10 million contracts. So like, we got a bunch of Hall of Famers in uniform. Let's go.
That actually,
the Woods might force them to do.
That'd be really fun.
But also, like, so, like, you guys brought this up, like, there's unfair criticisms and fair criticisms. But, like, so even Jordan Walker falling apart, it's like the ins and outs of how that happened. You can give or take how much of that's Mo's fault. But it's like, ultimately, they haven't produced a young star in forever. Like, literally, like, the closest one you can argue in the last decade is Matt Carpenter, which actually is 15 years ago now, not really 10 years ago that he came up. And that's like, he's a star, but he wasn't a superstar. Then you have to go all the way back to years before Mo actually took over, and that's Pujols and Pujols and Yachty. Waino, but that's also years before he took over. Again, so you give him credit for being a part of that process, but it's like you've oversaw this team for 18 years, and the best player that came out of your leadership was Matt Carpenter. Like, that's also, and now he made true trades for Matt Holliday and Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado and so credit to him on a lot of things, but I think it's just like that plays into things. The fact that this team, it lacks a star now, has lacked a star for basically since the back half of 2023. Like, the first half, Nolan was still kind of a star, but then it started to fall off. So it's 2.5 years with no star on the roster. And I mean, you're hoping JJ Weatherhole or Rynell or guys like that could be in the future, but right now you don't have one coming up. Like, you don't know who the next one's going to be. And so, like, I think fans are also frustrated by the outlook of things, that it's like, yeah, it's encouraging. It's better than it has been, but it is a far cry from the heydays of the Mo era. It really is. This is, and again, I feel like sometimes we act like the Cardinals have never been bad ever. Like, it's like, no, like, there have been stretches in the 1900s where they weren't, like 1990s was pretty rough, especially at the end. Like, they brought in Walt Jocketty and Tony La Russa had a worse winning percentage than the Ollie's era so far. Like, people don't want to talk about that all that often, but like, and they had Mark McGwire during that too. Like,
yeah, but that helps. Like, that totally helps.
Yeah, true. But I'm saying, like, they've had some weird stretches before, so I think it's unfair to act like the Cardinals can't ever, like, have never ever been bad. But the standard is higher here in St. Louis, and sure, they did have COVID, which was a thing that's tough for anyone to lead through in every situation. Like, but like, other teams figured it out, so you got to figure it out. At the end of the day, you can't 5 years later keep making an excuse, or 10 years after Oscar Tavares tied, still keep pointing to that as the limit. It's like, dude, this, like, I think Oscar Tavares would have been a star too, but there's also a chance he wasn't. And like,
he'd also be like close to retirement at this point. Like,
yeah,
other guys that came up at that point now, like guys that had really good long careers are now retiring. You know,
yeah.
Oscar Tavares proved less in his one season than Jordan Walker did in his first season.
That's not fair, though. He got such limited playing time. Like,
I know, but I'm saying like Mo can't just be like, well, we knew he would have been good, because clearly,
I mean, he was a hell of a prospect, though.
I know.
It was definitely different.
So was Jordan Walker, and guess
it was they were different though. But
yeah, also like, I will agree, and I think Mo can't really say this, and I'm happy to say it for him. Like, the Cardinals are due some good luck eventually, right?
Yeah.
Like it does. They've just been snake bitten in terms of top end development.
They
Alex
got 2
Perez,
Hall of Famers for free in the span of like 2 years.
I'm not talking about making trades though. Also, like, was it really free? Because they've now taken on a ton of bad money from Nolan Arenado. And
okay, but what did they have to give up for that? Absolutely nothing. The best player that's come out of that entire both of those deals is probably like
they took on the salary. Colorado is definitely happy to not be paying that contract right now.
Well, they're paying.
Moving on from that, the thing is, like, in terms of top end development, the Cardinals can't catch a break at this point in time.
I would agree more so on the pitching side because, like, when Dylan Carlson doesn't pan out and Jordan Walker, like, some of that is on the player, but also some of that is on your development. But I think the fact that Reyes had injuries, Walker had shoulder injuries, but they did let go of Walker, and Walker has been steady good ever since he left. And apparently Tampa was a big part of that.
Walker had a good last year in St. Louis too, though. Like, he was good, and I kind of thought they'd re-sign him.
Yeah, and like Lance Lynn was good, and they let him go.
Shelby Miller's had a nice career.
Yeah, but then even like when he was awesome for them, they traded him, and he had a freak injury with the Diamondbacks. So like he might have still been good if he stayed here. You have
solid bullpen.
Yeah, but then like Jack Flaherty, the shoulder stuff was an issue. And then you traded away Alcantara and Zach Gallen. So like, which also, to be fair to Mo, like if Oscar Tavares does pan out, you probably don't trade Zach Gallen and Sandy Alcantara, and you may have 2 aces and an perennial all-star that you've developed. Okay, now this is all what ifs.
Matter. Like, you still, like, one, if you have the chance to acquire someone like Ozuna, you probably try to do it, and 2, you don't give up that prospect package.
Well,
that's not.
Yeah,
that's a mistake anyway. Like,
well, I think everybody. I remember when I remember where I was when they announced that they traded for Ozuna. That was like a big moment in my young Cardinals fandom. It was like the biggest trade they'd made yet, I think, in several years. Right? Maybe the Hayward trade was bigger, but
I remember being really excited for Stanton. And
I thought they were going to get Stanton too. I was reading Viva Albertos in study hall, but I do remember I was like in my dad's car on Manchester Road by like West County Mall when over the radio they announced, "Hey, the Cardinals have acquired so and so," and I was like, "Man, it sucks that they traded Magneuris Sierra." Right? Like, people were excited to watch him. He was fun. He was really fast. But like, there was a time when around the industry, it seemed that most people agreed that Zach Gallen and Sandy Alcantara were fine pieces. But I don't know if anybody at that time was saying, like, you don't give those guys up. That's totally hindsight. They popped off afterwards. And, you know, it's honestly crazy in hindsight that as quickly as they did, the Marlins were able to flip Gallen for Jazz Chisholm, who was a much more highly regarded prospect. Like, it is what it is, but that is totally hindsight.
It's hindsight for us to fully criticize it, but it was also I see in the chat, it was John Mozeliak to trade for Matt Holliday. It wasn't Will Jocketty. But sorry, going back to that though, like it is on the organization to know who to keep and who to trade. Like, again, I'm not going to criticize them, be like, oh, we all knew this was going to blow up in their face.
Could have done better.
But like, other organizations know when to, like, the Rays have started to make a little more mistakes, like they traded away Joe Ryan and stuff like that. But usually you don't want to trade the Rays or the Dodgers because you kind of know whoever they give you, they don't think very highly of, and they're probably right. And the Cardinals got fleeced on it. And also too, like, Ozuna had the shoulder issues, and the Cardinals knew about it and did it anyways. That's an indictment. And it's like, that stuff publicly we didn't really know, but like the fact they knew and did it, that's a problem. And also they wanted Christian Yelich. They didn't want Ozuna. And they got impatient. They made the Ozuna trade, and then the Marlins are like, oh, actually now Christian Yelich is available.
Although, the Cardinals did not have the prospect capital to go get Yelich. Like, Lewis Brinson was more highly regarded than anybody we had.
I don't know.
Was like a top 10 prospect in baseball.
I don't know if he was top 10 back then, but also too, it doesn't even matter because that's something where they basically, if I'm not mistaken, they basically use the exact same framework to get Giancarlo Stanton, to get Marcell Ozuna.
Yes,
and so like, if they really like, and they didn't think Christian Yelich and Ozuna were like this, they saw Christian Yelich as potentially a real star difference maker. And the very next year wins MVP at the Brewers and finishes second the year after.
That was infuriating.
And so they could have waited that out. And even if it took more, it would have made more sense than getting Ozuna in hindsight. But also, again, they knew the shoulder stuff and they internally evaluated Yelich is worth more, and they weren't patient enough. And the Brewers sat back and were like, we'll wait this out. we'll see if we get the guy we want. So I do think there are things like that. That's like, man, like there are a lot of sliding doors moments where if Mo had made a different decision, and then it feels like these decisions built upon each other, right? Where like Oscar Taveras dies, so it leads them to trade for Jason Hayward. Jason Hayward leads in free agency, causes them to go sign Dexter Fowler. Then they go trade for Marcell Ozuna to fill that hole because it still didn't work out. Then Marcell Ozuna doesn't work out. They did trade for Goldschmidt, but then they have to go trade for Nolan. They just keep chasing their tail because every time they try to fix it, it didn't work. And it's like, if you had nailed one of those, you could have ended this like chasing process earlier, and then they've let things deteriorate. They invested more money at the big league level to compensate for the fact they traded away their good prospects and kept the wrong ones and to stop developing guys as well. It all just started falling apart like a house of cards. And
now they're chasing that's what people falling onto Jordan Walker. Oh, sorry, too soon. Sorry.
Let's thank Homo sponsor a podcast real quick. And I do want to hear, because we've mostly talked about like, is it fair for fans to be mad? But I'm curious, how do you guys feel about the Mo era as we're running out on his last homestand? So as always, want to thank 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 and All Boulevard in Olivet. They're open 10 to 5 Monday through Fridays and 10 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards. They have the newest selections of packs, all sports cards, and single cards of local players and stars from around the league. Make sure you go check them out. And we might be selling some cards in their store soon too, so we'll see about that. And as always, we want to thank one of our other sponsors, and that is Underdog Sports. The Deal in the Cards podcast is proud to be partnered with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You're now eligible to play in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and 37 other U.S. states. You got to check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. You just pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can win 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. If that sounds like fun, sign up with our promo code CARDS to claim your first free pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries. Yeah, we always want to thank Underdog Sports for their partnership. So, Sandy, when you think about the Mozeliak era ending, I know we kind of weave this in a little bit, but we think it's fair, totally fair for fans to be upset. What's like this is finishing up. Like, what's your overall thoughts on this? I know we'll get more into this soon, but just kind of last homestand, where are you at with Mo and his legacy here in St. Louis?
Yeah, it's going to take time, I think, for people to, feel a little more positively towards Mozeliak, but eventually, I don't know, Cardinals fans eventually, I think for the most part, do see the past through rose-colored glasses, and it'll take time. I think there will come a point when he's welcome again at the ballpark, and people salute him for putting together some of their favorite teams, especially when people in our younger generation grow up and we remember coming back and watching. Pick a player from the mid 2010s that you really enjoyed watching, whether that was a Colton Wong or even like a Paul DeYoung. I loved Paul DeYoung when he first came up with the Cardinals. I thought he was so fun to watch.
Andrew's over here being like, the second guy out of your mouth was Paul DeYoung.
Yeah, I liked Harrison Bader. Like, people loved Harrison Bader for a long time. But
also, you do have to give Waino and Yachty to him too. Like, I know it's also Walt.
Sure, yeah, I know that's Walt. Yeah. I didn't want to say them because I know that's Walt, but they did have some of their best success under Mo, so that's totally fair.
Next, you're going to tell me how I'm going to be on this podcast in 15 years telling you guys how much I miss Eric Fetty, man. Like, that's man.
It is funny. You literally could have said David Freese, Carlos Beltran, Alan Craig, Lance Berkman. He goes Paul DeYoung.
I'm talking about the actual post. You know what I'm talking about?
I guess the next reliever in your line of glazing relievers.
I've got to go to the second half.
Sam Freeman, guys, remember?
I know if I go early in Mo's career, people are going to be like, "Oh, that's the machine Walt built." Okay.
Yeah, but there's other guys other than Paul DeYoung.
I liked Paul DeYoung. I was a big Paul DeYoung fan.
Oh man.
But Brendan Donovan is a great example of a guy that Cardinals fans will have enjoyed watching a long time from now, and they will talk about how they enjoyed to watch Brendan Donovan.
Michael Sinisi.
Oh, dude, absolutely. It's not going to be Jordan Walker, but it's going to be guys like that. Even like randos that you just liked watching. Okay, people.
John King.
Everyone's got their guys. I loved Alan Craig. He was like my favorite player for a really long time. And I'll always enjoy watching those highlights, and I'll credit Mo to that. And so eventually Mo will be welcome around Busch Stadium again, but it's going to take time to get there, of course. And right now it's all just fresh. Fans are just fed up. They haven't done any winning. Winning fixes everything. And when you win, you can look back on crappier eras and say, well, that was a big part of this, getting us here eventually. And it's all part of the story that the Cardinals are telling over decades. And it's just going to take time, I think. But yeah, I mean, right now fans are mad, and that's fine. Fans are sick of it. I don't blame it. I don't blame them at all.
Yeah. Andrew, how are you remembering the Mo era?
I mean, just interacting with Mo, like doing this with you guys and getting to like actually meet Mo is like pretty cool. And honestly, Mo's a really funny guy. That doesn't necessarily make him the best baseball executive for the job. I don't think that does, but he's fun to interact with. He like he'll give you a hard time if you ask a dumb question. I asked some dumb questions to Mo back in the day.
That was the best. That was so
whatever.
There were worse questions asked, though.
That's true. I had to ask Mo that question. I was at the stage where I was asking everyone that question. So
yeah, I remember. I tried to deter you many a time.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, it was fun. Like the 2011 through 2015 era of baseball was fun. Like Mo made some of those trades that really helped the Cardinals win that 2011 World Series. That was a lot of him. Like obviously some of the guys that led the team, like Pujols and Yachty and whoever, weren't necessarily like guys that were drafted when he was like leading the organization, but he was still there. And then I don't know, like it was still enjoyable watching the team like kind of hang around there in the like late 2010s and like early 2020s. And then after that, it just going off the rails and Mo talking about patience. And, I really wish we could get Mo in a time machine back to like 2017 so he could tell himself to have a little bit of patience and not trade for Ozuna. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, when you think back, it's like, okay, so especially the early years, I mean, he made some pretty incredible trades. You go and get Matt Holliday, you go and get David Freese, and that helps you win a World Series. Like he was aggressive, which is super fun. Like I think fans like when, even if you got to take, if you're going to take a bunch of swings, you're going to miss a few times. But it is fun that for multiple off seasons in a row, they went for Jason Hayward, or not in a row, but like in a span of 4 to 5 or 6 or 7 years, they traded for Goldschmidt, Arenado, Jason Hayward, Marcelo Ozuna in off seasons, and those are big names. Free agency wise, they signed Carlos Beltran to a great deal. He was a huge cog in the 2012, 2013, 2014 run. You have Lance Berkman, who was a huge reason they won the World Series in 2011. It was awesome to watch play. The pitching development was, I mean, like it's truly historic in the 2010s. Like it's not an understatement. It's truly one of like, I don't know if the Cardinals will ever be able to replicate what they had going on there for that time. They did have the Memphis Mafia pop up where you had Alan Craig and John Jay and Daniel Descalso and Colton Wan and a bunch of different like young guys who come up and be scrappy players who help them win. Like the Cardinals were a team every postseason from 2011 to 2015 that you did not want to face that team. When they came up, you're like, oh boy. Like they knocked out the Phillies when they were juggernauts, or the Nationals or their juggernauts, or the Dodgers when they were juggernauts. They could have won a second World Series if David Ortiz wasn't like in like one of the best hitters in baseball history. Yeah, they stopped pitching.
Matheny pitched to him over and over again.
Yeah,
by the way, fireable offense, unbelievable.
So it's just hard not to look back at those years and like that was so fun. And yeah, there were mistakes made. Should they've gone for Terry Francona over Mike Matheny, or just not hired Mike Matheny and done something else? Maybe.
I think they should have hired Ollie in his 20s, but it's too early for that discussion.
Okay, but like also like I know that people like I don't know what Albert would have done if he had stayed. But all we know is what he did when he left. And it's like, wow, Mo dodged a major bullet there, not giving in. And also that's an ownership thing too. It's not just Mo that they didn't sign it. It's actually probably more so the DeWitts.
I don't know if
Mo on that.
The Angels are the Angels. And they won't.
Yeah, but also too, like there's no DH. He was clear. It wasn't just he just stopped being good. He had a ton of health stuff. So like it's just you never that one's like I don't want to blame Mo for saying we missed out on Albert being good because all we know is that he was bad, and so it's hard to.
I mean, an Angels health staff for like I'm not even going to finish that thought, but like, but that organization is a mess. So, and it's no surprise that he comes back to St. Louis and is immediately good again. So, I don't know.
You never know. Well, he wasn't immediately good. He started the year really bad. It was that incredible second half.
It was some magic.
He almost retired. He talks about he almost retired at the All-Star break.
I like to think that it was just some St. Louis magic one more time.
one more time.
That's what I like to think.
He used the last of it. Now there'll never be Magic again. But
no, they should have. They could have done it with Juan Soto, but
yeah,
the Angels have ruined us multiple times now. Because if the Angels had traded Ohtani to the Padres, then we would have got Juan Soto, and we probably anyway. Whatever. Nah.
Yeah, that that's fair. So there's all that, and they also did trade for Goldschmidt Arenado, even though it didn't work out. But then you did the past 8 years have been what they are. Like some of them have been fun, right? Like 2022 is really fun. 2021, you had that win streak. 2020 is whatever. 2019 was pretty fun. Made the NLCS. Yeah.
They should have beat the Padres in that series.
Yeah, and they had a weird year with the COVID outbreak. So I think I'm net positive on Mo's time as a GM or as the GM and president of baseball operations. But there's a bad taste in the mouth how it ended. And I do think it's pretty unfortunate that he allowed things to deteriorate the way they have. And I do think it's unfortunate too. Like, I think it would have been refreshing for people to hear him take more ownership of things. And honestly, like that end of season press conference in 2024, when they announced the Bloom things, and it was right after Katie Woo's incredible piece that did a deep dive. And they basically were like, all these anonymous sources internally are like, this is really bad. And then they even openly admit, like, we need to make changes. But then when they're asked, like, is it because things got bad? They're like, well, no, it was good, but like it needs overhauled. And it's like, well, why isn't he overhauled? Well, it wasn't our fault. It needed a change. And it's just like, okay, like just admit it. Like that would make people feel a lot better if you can take ownership of some of this. I like that he's taking ownership of the Azuna trade, but also it's like, that's so easy. Like you traded 2 Cy Young candidates away. Like, you can't even try to explain that one away. It just, I don't know. I think sometimes, like personally, I like following, and I have more respect for people when they're able to admit when things didn't go well and to admit when things did go well. And it feels like he really digs his heels ends on things, and it's whatever.
Can I go off topic really quick for 1 second?
Yeah.
Apparently, Clayton Kershaw's final start as a Dodger will be on Apple TV.
That's really funny.
Which, I mean, like, I guess, I don't know. Poole 700 homer being on Apple TV made me so sad.
Apple TV is the worst.
It's the worst. And they're not doing any games next year, which...
Well, thank goodness, because they shouldn't be. They're awful.
The worst streaming service. Anyway, sorry.
It's all good. But yeah, so that's just my overall thoughts. It's like mostly positive. It's been a good experience with Mo, in my opinion, but also... I mean, I don't blame people for being mad about it. And also, everyone gets entitled to your opinion. I'm not going to be like, you're wrong to not like Mozeliak's leadership. But I think ultimately we're all ready for change. And actually, I think if it was up to Mo, he would have been done a few years ago. And so maybe that's the one thing I really wish we could know the full story on. Because if he held into this more so because he's like doing a solid for the DeWitts and he cares about them and there's potentially a long-term future, that kind of stuff. And it was really there like, Mo, please don't be done. Like, he still could have been done, but it is also like, man, like if you take the last 2 years off his resume and he gets to be done after 2023, like it does sting less and the things get to change a little bit more and quicker and they get to some of these things. But he did stay and he feels like he sat on his hands a little bit. So that's on him. But anything else you guys would add into that?
I think something that Mo was generally criticized for, especially in the last 10 years, is like refusing to go in at the trade deadline or refusing to go out. And honestly, it kind of felt like you got more of that. Yeah, there it is. It felt like you got more of that these last few years. You know, like, are the Cardinals going to rebuild? Are they going to sit on the edge of the playoffs? They're going to trade for Eric Fetty? Oh, you know, it's like the biggest move they've made in recent memory is Jordan Montgomery, you know, where it just is like, what are we doing? We haven't seen any big moves. It was more of that these last few years. So I think that's another thing that fans are just tired of it. At the end of the day, too, what Moselak has come to embody is like this era of Cardinals baseball. And until he's gone, fans are going to feel like they just can't shake whatever this is. And I think there are likable players on this team for sure. I love Wilson Contreras. I love Brendan Donovan. I think Mason Wynn is super cool. I love watching him play. I think Ivan Herrera is really fun. And even with like Goldschmidt and Arenado, it felt like there was an era of Cardinals baseball that ended around 2015. And that's when Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright, their careers changed, right? You are now multiple years past the Albert years and your other holdovers from that team, whether you're talking about David Freese, his career in St. Louis was done, or the Lance Berkman, or even like Carlos Beltran, who I know came in after the World Series. But like that era had ended, and this new era just kind of never materialized in the same way. And even now, the Cardinals are probably another era removed of just like, who's the guy?
Yeah.
And Mo will come to embody those two eras specifically, even though he had a huge hand in that earlier one, that first one. But I think that's what he embodies to fans right now. And they really feel like nothing can move on until you have that big top-down change. And hopefully 10 years from now, the Cardinals have built this juggernaut with tons of young talent, and there's a clear superstar in St. Louis, and Chaim Bloom has come to embody that, you know?
Yeah. It's a really interesting point that it's like if he had a real run in one of these eras afterward, then it would have been a huge feather in his cap to be like, hey, you can't even point to Walt. Like, especially if Yadi's like 35 during one of those, it's like, okay, we get it that Walt was the GM when he came in, but he's also like not the same Yadi anymore. So like, but like it is different when their best years were Yadi prime or Pujols prime. And the 2022 team had made the World Series. Like it's different. We think differently about this.
If we had that picture that I thought we were going to get, I thought there was going to be a picture of, you know, Goldschmidt and Arenado walking off the field after winning the World Series together and, you know, hoisting the World Series trophy in the clubhouse. Like I thought we were going to have that. It's going into the 2022 playoffs. I was like, this is the team of destiny. We're going to get all these like great final moments. It's going to be Albert, Waino, and Yadi together. It's going to be, you know, Goldie and Arenado, and they're this new era, and they're going to be immortalized forever. And we didn't get any of it. They brought all those guys in for the Cardinals to win a total. They won one playoff game with Arenado on the roster.
You know that mural?
No, I think they won any. We didn't have Arenado in 2020.
They didn't win a single game with Arenado on the roster.
Yeah.
You know that mural outside, like where we have Blogger Day? With like all the eras and the different players. Is one's in like 10 years when they have to update that, is the current one going to just be blank? Like who are they going to put there?
They'll probably put like Brendan Donovan or Michaelis.
Goldie will be on it because he won an MVP.
Oh yeah, Goldie and Arenado can fit. Yeah, Arenado be able to cover part of it because of that. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I don't even know.
But yeah, they never got those immortal moments.
You have a really good point about 2022. Like, imagine if you say they win the World Series, like you even make the World Series. It's Yadi and Pujols made it. Waino, Goldschmidt, Arenado. You would have had some of this young core start to become like Brendan Donovan or Gorman or people like that would have started to like. You start to be like, wow, like these are some guys that you can potentially build around moving forward. Also, I think Andrew's dipping for the night, but we'll be done soon anyways. But that would have been exciting and like memorable and something that people would always look back on and be like, remember that team? It was that had the old legends of Pujols and Yadi and Waino. It had the new stars of Goldschmidt and Arenado, and it had the future stars and the old stars, current stars, and new stars. That would have been like the real perfect bow tie on his present.
It was like multiple different cores all coming together, and it just felt special. You know, I thought they were going to do something. I still look back and I think that was a really good baseball team.
Yeah.
And I think they deserved better than they got. I think the new playoff format's stupid. I'll always say, if you are the divisional champion, you should play in the divisional series, right? Come on. Like that's ridiculous to me. But yeah, they never got that immortal moment from the end of Moselak's tenure. You think about like the Jocketty era is remembered by like Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina embracing after they win the World Series together. It's that legendary curveball, you know, freezing. It's unbelievable. It's all of that together. And it's that incredible series against the Mets too. Like that's what you remember that with. The early Mo era, it's David Freese rounding the bases in Game 6, right? It's him spiking his helmet through his legs. It's all of these unbelievable moments in those postseason runs. And they got none of those, right? Like the one playoff game they've won in the last 10 years, there were no fans at. There were no fans.
Well, they won games in 2019.
Yeah, sure. I forgot about those.
But in the 2020s,
that was a great series. And you do have the moment like Yachty's walk off in Game 4 of that series, and Flaherty taking the mound up 10-0. Like, cool. Those are some great moments too. But yeah, like the one in the last 6 years of Moselak's career, the only playoff game they won was in front of 0 fans. That's it. You know, that's crazy to think about. They never got those moments, and it's the only, like, they never won a game with Arenado on the roster. We never got a postseason press conference with Arenado in the clubhouse talking about whatever happened. Like, we never even got that.
Yeah. Also, too, like, Jen's made a really point. It's not like, well, if they've done 8 different things, this world's different. Like, they don't make that Ozuna trade. That 2022 team now also has Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen at the top of it, with some combination of Wainwright, Montgomery, Jose Quintana, something like that, like, to go into that playoffs, which also pitching wasn't the problem in that Phillies series, but like, they do have those 2 guys. So I want to say that's why they didn't win in 2022, because their offense didn't show up. But like, you didn't have Randy Rosarina, who could have been something a part of that, and to trade him for Libby, partially because they didn't have Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen. Like, that was a ramification of that. And also another reason they didn't make the Juan Soto trade is because they didn't have a lot of young talent they could depend on. And so it's like, there's a world, again, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but there's a world they go into that 2022 deadline with Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen top of the rotation, Randy Rosarina still on the team, and they trade all those pieces away and they go get Juan Soto. And that's not like a crazy world of like, well, if they had signed Bryce Harper and done all these things, it's like, if they had just not made the dumb moves, they would have been great. And then they could have went over the top. And then you've got to line up with Goldschmidt, Arenado, Pujols, Juan Soto, Randy Rosarina, with a rotation that had Sandy Alcantara, Zach Gallen, and Adam Wainwright. Like, that team's winning a World Series.
Yeah.
And like, epic fashion. Yeah, I guess no guarantees, but like, that would have been an epic team.
And you're probably not playing in the wild card series, which would have been really nice too.
And at the very least, it's like, if that team loses, it's not like people are like, well, Mo put together a terrible team. It's like, no, Mo had 2 Cy Young candidates, 3 MVP candidates, prime Albert Pujols, Yachty is still on the team, and they didn't win. It's like, what else can you do?
Yeah. And Waino had a great year too in 2022. That's underappreciated how great he was at that age. Yeah, all those things are true. I also just think, I'm looking at this comment from Cole Bassett's left foot here. I wonder, actually, people remember the Walt Jocketty era so fondly, but the Walt Jocketty era had its frustrations too. The Cardinals fielded 3 consecutive 100-win teams, right? And didn't win anything. They went to the World Series and lost. They lost in the NLCS to the Astros, and it was the 82-80 2006 Cardinals that ended up winning the World Series, which we all know that team was much more talented than that record suggests. But look, almost everybody in the baseball world thought the Detroit Tigers were going to run them over. You know, the Cardinals ended up winning in 6, though. We're clearly the better team at the end of that series. But it took the worst team to ever qualify for the postseason to win the World Series to finally vindicate the machine that Jocketty had built. And then the Cardinals disappointed in 07, 08, 09, right? Like, that was kind of a darker.
Which 09 was, or 08 and 09 were Mo. But I mean, there were teams taking over a team that was
but that was, if people want to give Jocketty, the credit for 11 through 13, absolutely, he can take those bummy years then. And I think they had like 1 playoff series loss to the Dodgers in there, and a couple like missed the playoffs years. Like there were some mid years too. So if he doesn't win that World Series, right? Like, I don't think there's any question in that Mo's era was much better.
Yeah. And also, again, like, so other things too, just from the chat, like Game 7 of 2011 under Mo was best. Like, honestly, like, there'll never be a Cardinal moment that tops that. Or sorry, Game 6, 2011. Game 7 winning the World Series, but like Game 6 was like,
Game 6, that's like maybe the best baseball game ever played, right? Like, it consistently ranks in like the top 5 games of all time.
Yeah. And then one other thing too, which I think is totally fair from Snipes, like, there's no guarantee, which is why it's playing what if games is not fair to do, but it's like, there's no guarantee that Alcantara and Gallen end up being as good if they were with the Cardinals. So
they probably get injured. Think about that. They probably are hurt.
The Cardinals' luck.
Yeah, they're probably on the IL right there with Alex Reyes at the time, and right there with the future of the team, which is Tekoa Roby and Cooper Jerpy and Tink Hence. None of them can stay healthy. Literally none of them.
Yeah. So, anyways, what a time. But any other things you want to add in, or I know we'll probably do some more Mo retro. Well, we've got some fun videos coming your way with Mo retroactive stuff, but also I'm sure we'll have some more conversations because we'll have a long off season to talk about a lot
it's
of stuff.
another long off season. Yeah, this is the third time in a row we've come into this last week, like 10 or so games left. I think 9 games left in the season, and you just look at the team, and you're like, well, there's no like real reason to watch these games, and the Cardinals are not making the playoffs, and they don't look very good, and they're not playing inspired baseball. But at the same time, now you're approaching 6 straight months with no baseball games, which also sucks. It's the worst. It's a real bummer. I'm at the point now, like I always, when the Cardinals are no good, I always get to the point in like August, I think like late August, where I'm like, man, just ready for the off season to get going and have some more stuff to think about. But then I get down to the very end, I'm like, I'm going to miss the rhythm of turning on the game and, spending my evening watching them play. And it sucks. I hate the off season. It's so boring.
True that. And hopefully it's a little more like, again, they're not going to be active in the free agent market per se. And I don't think they're going to make big swings, but I mean, I expect them to be active in terms of trading away from the roster and maybe making some shrewd signings. And it will be exciting because it's different, right? Like when they sign, I always say Andrew Heaney is my placeholder and it doesn't mean anything, but it's like when they sign Andrew Heaney, it's like, what does Chaim Bloom see? It's not like, Mo thinks he needs some innings. It's like,
everybody knew what Mo saw
can do
in Gibson and Lynn. We can say that with the shirt.
And then next year too, we do get the debut of JJ Weatherholt. We probably get the debut of Quinn Matthews. Leonardo Bernal will be closer, right? Like Reinel Rodriguez will be pushing closer. You get Liam Doyle next year. There's some things to start looking forward to for next year that are fun. So
there's more talent in the minor leagues headed into next year. The Cardinals are I think 9th now in ESPN. I know ESPN sucks and their baseball content's awful.
I think Baseball America on 14th
in the top 10. Yeah, I think Baseball America's down on the Cardinals though. I think that's
maybe. I mean, I think if they start getting aggressive with the Reinel rankings, which I think they will after the year, maybe they don't
even have Reinel or Bernal in their top 100. I'm sorry.
Actually, both are now, I think.
Wait, they put Reinel in? Because I saw Reinel was unranked. And
I'm pretty sure they did it recently.
They had Bernal at one point recently 11th in the Cardinals system, which is, I'm sorry, it's an ignorant take.
Yeah, I'll see if you before we jump off the pod if they
I agree that we do tend to overhype our own farm. Everyone overhypes their own farm system, but I think there is legitimate talent right now in the Cardinals system. There is, like, whether you want to talk about JJ Weatherholt or Reinel Rodriguez, who the numbers coming out of there are unbelievable. The advanced analytics on Reinel are pretty crazy. Like, it's worth buying in right now and getting in on the hype early. Liam Doyle, I think, was an exciting pick. Like that guy could be a dude for you in your rotation someday. He has an incredible fastball, something the Cardinals have been trying desperately to find forever. You finally have that guy that actually could be an ace. Like, he actually has that potential. And farther down, like, the depth now is starting to be there with the Cardinals. I know all of your upper level pitching was hurt this year, but some of those guys are going to have a chance to be back next year. Quinn Matthews is going to be healthy headed into next year now. And farther down, there are actually guys to look at, whether we're talking about a Bryson Motts, who had a super encouraging year, or guys with good stuff like Chen-Wei Lin farther down. Like, there is talent in the system now, more than there's been in a while.
Yeah, I think most people will generally agree with that. And also, you are right. Reinel is top 100, but Bernal they have is their 11th ranked prospect.
That's crazy.
Behind Nathan Church.
Yeah,
bro,
it's a terrible take. It's a terrible take.
Joshua Baez could be someone,
Joshua Baez is inching towards, in my opinion, top 100 prospect status in the sport.
Yeah. I mean, when you got a guy who's cranking home runs like he does and has over 50 stolen bases, and isn't striking out much like anymore either, or like isn't striking out the crazy rates that he was before. It's pretty exciting. Padilla has like quietly been pretty good this year. Like, he's got no power, but
yeah. I mean, there's very few players that like their stock is down after this year in the Cardinals system. There are guys like Darlin Saladin had a really disappointing year and stuff, but like, but very few across
Quinn,
the board.
Kind of.
Aside from injuries, though, like Quinn has looked great for the last month.
Yeah, but overall, it's still like, but then I think also to the point of like we overhype prospects. Like, I think it's fair to say on paper there's more talent, but also it's like at some point they got to actually turn those guys out before we get too excited about it. Because like just a couple years ago, we're like, man, wait till Tink Hens comes, or wait till Gordon Graceffo comes, wait till Jordan Walker's up, he's a future superstar, and Gorman's gonna be a 40 home run hitter, and it's like,
I know.
So we had to hold it in tension, but again, it is different when it's now Bloom and his staff overseeing it versus. Yeah, but now it's Bloom and his staff, and it's not Mo and his staff. So it's different leadership. So it doesn't mean it's going to work out, but it is like it's not like we're not trying the same thing over and over again, hoping it's different. It's new hands, new eyes. So we'll see. But
did you see Baez is the second guy ever to join Springfield's like 15 homer, 30 stolen base club, and he did it in 78 games.
Wow, that's crazy.
I mean, he had a hell of a year. He was awesome.
Look at Joshua Baez go. Yeah, we always appreciate the support on the podcast. Like and subscribe, helps channel a ton. Comment down below. Seriously, like we love talking Cardinals baseball with you guys, and we'll have plenty of content as the year goes on. I know you and Andrew had done a game live stream a couple weeks ago, and I think Andrew and I might be slated to do one this weekend, so keep an eye out for that over on Assist, which is super fun. As always, though, we really appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys this weekend for either the Assist stream or a podcast. Catch you later.
Thanks, Mo.
Thanks, Mo.